been saying for the last couple of weeks, and I'm hoping into a couple of weeks we will cool down for about 10, 20 degrees as we're heading toward the fall. If you cannot join us every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the show is podcast. Just go to LA Talk Radio, click on to Schedule 1, and you can download any of the archived shows. Also can download any of the podcasts on iTunes or Stitcher. Follow me on Twitter at VCM Production, and send me little love letters. You can on my fan page on Facebook. Don't get left in the dust. Our guest today is Anjuli Kronheim. Anjuli Kronheim. This is her third time being on the show. She is with Common Cause California, Los Angeles organizer. The second half, our second guest, is Dr. Ellie D. Beltram. She's PhD, a psychoanalyst, and a New Age scientist, and she's going to be on the second half. She has a very unique way, and you're going to find it really interesting. So hang in there for the entire day. Stay cool. And I have both of our guests is going to be online. Calling in. So I have Anjuli coming online. Anjuli, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Paula.
Before we get into the discussion, I'm going to just give a refresher course on Common Cause to our audience. Common Cause is a nonpartisan, nonprofit advocacy organization founded in 1970 by John Gardner as a vehicle for citizens to make their voices heard in the political process and to hold their elected leaders accountable to the public interest. Today, Common Cause is one of the most active, effective, and respected nonprofit organizations working for political change in America. With nearly 400,000 members and supporters and 35 state organizations, Common Cause remains committed to honest, open, accountability government, as well as encouraging citizen participation in democracy. And since we're a little over 30 days until the general election, and this election is there's huge contrast between the candidates and the parties. We're going through interesting and sometimes frightening times, at least from my perspective. Every vote counts, and this is why we're having a discussion to get everybody energized. We're heading toward October, the debates. Get registered, you get out there and vote. So Anjuli, I want to talk about, there was a youth summit last month in August at Berkeley, and we advertised it on the show a couple months before they did. I want you to go into what it was and how did it go.
Yeah, this is the third annual California statewide student activist training that Common Cause puts together. So this is the third year that we did it. We host 30 students from across the state at community colleges, private schools, UCs, what have you. And it's a 3-day training to learn how to, learn about these democracy issues that you were alluding to, election reform, looking at how our campaigns are financed, how we draw our lines, and redistricting every 10 years, and how they can make an impact on that on campus right now. So the training, I think, was our most successful, and students are actually coming out of it with clear action plans of what they're doing. They're already working on voter registration drives on campus, doing screenings of films that are on these kinds of topics, and working to pass ballot measures that we support. So it's pretty exciting.
Was this the largest group that came? You said this is the 3 years. So this is your third year. Was this the largest amount of kids that came to the campus, you think?
So the first year we had 20, and then the last 2 years we've had 30, and unfortunately it's just a matter of budget. If we had a couple more $1,000 to bring up 10 or 20 more students, we absolutely would. So it's just a budgetary question right now, and we're working to raise funds to bring more students every year.
That seems to be the theme for everybody, is budgetary, is the money. That always seems to be the biggest obstacle or a block in trying to get it the full way you want to do it. So what did they break out in groups? Can you get into specifics as how to get their activism going for election? And are they going to do this beyond? I mean, this is a huge election. And when you have a general election like the president, that's different. But when it goes back to maybe midterms or locals, things start to peter off. So is that addressed as well in the summit?
Yeah, we did do a little bit of how to avoid kind of burnout, because activists can get really excited about one election or one campaign and really overwork themselves. So we dealt with, how to keep inspiring yourself and your volunteers so that you can keep moving. Specifically, what are the things that they learned? A thing that's really tough that a lot of folks don't think about is how to tell your own personal story of why you're involved in the cause that you're involved in. So we figured out, taught students how to do that, tell their own story and link it to the action they were trying to get you to do. We talked about how to build coalitions with groups on campus and in the community and the value of that, how to actually lobby after the election when folks, are in office, and how to, talk to the media about your issues, because then you can reach a lot more people. So a lot of useful things that the students are already putting to use.
Yeah, I think that's so important. We have a tendency of, and this happened in the last election, everybody getting fired up, but the whole system, our democracy system, is not just one time only. You really have to work at it every day. Midterms are as important, local elections are important as voting for the president or congressmen and senators. So I was kind of curious. It sounded like you were doing those workshops. What were the kids? What was their main struggle, or I guess the word would be their concern in the process?
Yeah. Well, so I think there's kind of three groups of students that come to our training. So one is the group that really just thinks our issues are the way to go. So they think you need to reform government and reform elections in order to make change. So there's that subgroup of people, which gets me the most excited. And then there's a group of students that are actually, they call themselves dreamers, or California dreamers in California. They're undocumented students, and they work to pass the California Dream Act, and therefore they've been really politically activated because it's their personal story. And they want to, continue in their skill building and democracy reform vein after they've worked on that campaign. Mm-hmm. And the third group is students that are at public schools or community colleges that are really worried about the cost of school. So particularly, this election in California, they are working to pass Proposition 30 or Proposition 38 to build more money towards schools, or just fix government so that they can pass a better budget or get their student voice heard. So that's kind of the three groups of students that come to us.
Do you try in the summit to engage all of these different groups to think a broader term? A more
absolutely.
broad perspective that if you're too narrow, then there's a whole bunch of issues that have to be taken care of.
Yeah, I think our theme is, again, government and election reform, and that kind of brings all your issues together. So if your number issue is, immigration reform, it's tough to get something done on that if the government isn't working to get your voice heard. Or if your number one thing is budget cuts, then you got to kind of fix the government first. And healthcare, same thing. So that's our kind of theme, and why I think we get such a broad spectrum of ideas.
Now, who comes to the summit?
It's 30 undergraduate students. We've had grad students in the past, but there's not as much bonding there, and kind of if you're all an undergraduate, we can tailor the training for you. Mm-hmm. So it's a mix of freshmen all the way to seniors or to be seniors. They're not folks that are graduating. From community colleges, the UCs, and private schools all over the state. And we do our best to have a geography mixture of Southern and Northern California, even some Central Coast people, if you can believe it.
So the summit in Berkeley is for California only. There are no other students that come from other parts of the country. It's just California.
Yeah. Right now, that training is just for California students. In our national office in Washington, D.C., we have a national youth organizer that's working on a different strategy, not so many trainings in states, but, stipending Common Cause fellowships for students so that they can work on our issues, but, maybe get a small stipend to do it and organize on their campus.
At the workshops at the summit, you do workshops at the summit. Who are the leaders of this?
Yeah, it's a mix of Common Cause staff, some partner organization staff, so folks from the Courage Campaign, the Greenlining Institute, the UC Student Association. There's some peer learning, so students, leaders themselves from the UC system or from the State Senate District of the community college area. So a mix of folks like that. Folks from, we had a speaker from maplight.org to talk to students about how to actually follow the money in politics, whether that's for candidates or ballot measures, so that kind of thing.
What was the organization? You kind of broke up a little bit. What was the organization that talked about following the money? What were they called?
Yeah, it's a website called maplight.org.
Maplight? Okay.
Yeah, they do a really good job of following the money trail of candidates and ballot measures, and they actually just released a mobile app that you can follow the presidential candidate fundraising and their super PACs as well, called Politicash 2012. We're fully supportive of that.
That seems to be crucial now, especially with what has happened with the Supreme Court decision on that. So you need groups, more of them, to be watchdogs almost, and where that money is going. When this was the 3-day event, right? 3-day event?
That's right, 3 days.
During the weekend. So at the end of it, what were the kids? They're raring to go, or what was their? What did you see as far as from the first day to the last day?
Yeah. So on the last day, students actually put themselves into the quote unquote tier they want to be in. So 1, they would start their own Common Cause group. 2, they would host an event related to our issues. Or 3, they would just kind of use the skills and take action on another issue on campus. So a lot of folks put themselves in Tier 1 and Tier 2, which we're really excited about. So students have made plans to, again, do voter registration drives or show a film screening on the election reforms issues that we're talking about this year. So it's exciting.
Let's go into the 2 new laws that we talked about. Last time you were on the show, we had talked about the issues of registration, and I've heard this discussion also in other news agencies, that our system to register people is very archaic, in the sense both not getting online on a national level, as well as registering on the same day. So there were 2 new laws that were passed, signed by Governor Brown. Would you go into those?
Yeah, so the last legislative session, Governor Brown signed a bill called Online Voter Registration. It was SB 397, and it was signed last year. And actually, last week, September 19th, it actually went live in California. So you can now register to vote online, and you can do that at registertovote.ca.gov. Very simple. And in the first week, 119,000 people used the system, which is huge.
Yes.
A lot. And it's just so easy. So many of my non-political friends and students, from our training as well, have been getting their friends to use the tool, and it just makes it so much easier. They don't have to find a form. They don't have to mail it in. It's just automatic. So that actually went live, and we'll figure out more numbers, but I think 30% of that was young people, which is huge. And so California joined the ranks of 12 other states in the country that have online voter registrations this month.
It's like I said, since we talked about it last time, and what I found interesting and what I wasn't aware of is a younger generation not used to putting, as you say, putting a letter in an envelope. They're used to going online, and that now has become a theme of generally that we really need to upgrade, and we still need to be in the 21st century for people to go and just register online. You've got your iPhones, you've got everything that's at handheld. And the fact that we're still kind of 80, maybe even 100 years behind the time, especially in today's society, we want everybody to get a chance to vote. Do you see, I know California is, but in this, have you seen the country, is Common Cause working to have more and more states do this within a certain amount of time?
Yeah, Common Cause Hawaii actually passed the bill last session. I think they'll be implementing it in 2014, and our state leaders in 36 states are working on doing that. Unfortunately, a lot of our states are playing defense in the voter registration world, so you may have heard on the national level, a lot of states are passing, laws to restrict the vote and, make it difficult for folks to vote, whether it's taking away days of early voting,
right,
getting rid of election day registration, or having to show some sort of government-issued ID. It's really, a lot of states are playing defense, and therefore we're actually putting a lot of work into election protection, which means that we're staffing, poll workers and poll monitors to make sure everybody can vote on Election Day.
I want you to hold that thought for a second, Anjuli, and we're going to come back. And we're going to take a break for a little bit, and we're going to come back and talk about this, the voter ID suppression, because there was a second law that Governor Brown signed to make it easy on day. We're going to talk about it. So if everybody just joined us, I hope everybody's keeping cool. This is Paula G for Don't Get Left in the Dust. We're going to take a little break right now, and we'll be back with Anjuli Kronheim. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
with commoncause.org. We're going to talk about the issues as we're heading toward a major election, and it's very, very important because the contrasts are there, and we need to make sure everybody gets out the vote. So hang in there. We're going to be back with Anjuli in just a moment.
Countdown starts today toward kickoff event of groundbreaking 10-year project celebrating empowering women. The Women Speak Summit, Get Your Voice On, a celebration of women, premieres March 1st and 2nd of 2013 in New York, New York. The event is a time and place for women to celebrate and connect, held annually in March in New York City during Women's History Month. For the next 10 years, women of all ages are invited to raise their voices and create relations that make a difference locally and globally. For more contact information, go to www.getyourvoice.com or email at connect@getyourvoice.com. Cinema Libre Studios, along with Emmy Award-winning director Nicholas Eopoulos, presents Mary Pickford, the Muse of the Movies, featuring the narration of internationally acclaimed actor Michael York, rare footage of Pickford, Charlie Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks, Lillian Gish, Adolphe Zukor, and Amelia Earhart. This film is available on DVD and digital platforms for the first time, beginning June 19th, 2012. To order your copy or to learn more information, please visit www.marypickfordthemuse.com.
Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women, more than car accidents, muggings, and rapes combined. Help end domestic violence with Cheatin' Hearts support for Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October. Two stars collide when Michelle McRae's Patsy and Tom Mesmer's Hank brings the fantastic vocals of Patsy Cline and Hank Williams Sr. together on one stage at the Madrid Theater in Canoga Park, California. This magical pairing will grace the stage of the Madrid on Saturday, October 13, 2012 at 8 p.m. Proceeds will benefit Safe Passage as part of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. To learn more about this charity and the amazing work it does, go to www.safepassagelives.org. The event is sponsored by the law offices of Neil Rosenthal, Firm Solutions Incorporated, and Advantage Plus Agency, among others, will include a VIP party, a silent auction, and celebrity support. For more information, go to www.thecheatinheartsshow.com or call the Madrid office at 818-347-9938. That's 818-347-9938. Tickets are on sale and range from $24.50 to $50.
Imagine hanging out with a host of kind and knowledgeable spirits who reveal to you the deeper truths of this life. Take an intimate soul journey with me, Anne Preciado Rich, through my paranormal fiction novel, My 333rd Life on Planet Earth. Meet my alter ego, Zoe Lynn, and her spirit companions as they shine light on why we behave in many of the crazy ways that we do, especially when it comes to our sexuality, and learn how we can create a much more joyous life on this beautiful Earth. My 333rd Life on Planet Earth. Get it from Amazon.com or order it from your local bookstore.
You're listening to Don't Get Left in the Dust, right here on LA Talk Radio.
This is Paula G. for Don't Get Left in the Dust. We are talking to Anjuli from commoncause.org, California, on as we're heading toward the general election. Several laws have been passed on registration and working to get it out. We left the conversation, the discussion, with the recent law passed in California to make it easy, to get easy register online. But as we left it, we know there's some voter suppression out there, or difficulty people getting registered using ID in several states, especially battleground states. So, Anjuli, I know we were talking a little about before the break, the kind of using, the next 2-3 years to get more people trying to register, getting the system up to where citizens can register online. And yet you said there is some battles making the states are defensive, creating a defensive type of thing, making it harder. What was the other law that was passed by Governor Brown?
Yeah, this session, a bill called Election Day Registration. It was AB 1436, authored by Assemblymember Michael Fiore. So what that bill will do is that, this year in 2012, the last day to register to vote in California is October 22nd. So that's 15 days before the November 6th election. So what this bill would do when enacted is that there will be no more deadline, and you can register all the way up through Election Day and on Election Day. So that will actually work not in this election, but either when VoteCal, so that is the statewide voter database that needs to be created. So right now, if you're registered to vote, the record is with your county registrar, and there's 50 some odd county registrars in the state, and we need a statewide voter database. So when that happens, there will be Election Day registration, or in 2016. So stay tuned.
As I said before the break, you were talking a little bit about trying on a global level, on a national level, because your main office is in Washington. I know we're here in California, that there's been a difficulty trying to get registering online to make it easier because of some of these very strong voter ID, voter suppression. What kind of counter attack, I shouldn't say attacks, but kind of actions Common Cause is making to help this better on a national level? Can you get into
Right. Well, yeah, absolutely. Some states, Common Cause is actually signing on to amicus briefs or lawsuits to actually challenge some of these new laws enacted, like Pennsylvania, things like that. Some states like Wisconsin, they're actually working with organizations to physically drive students or folks who need the ID to actually get the ID that they need to vote. Some states are just working on an awareness campaign because a lot of people just need to know that they need to get some ID, or they can't go and vote on Sunday anymore. They have to do it on Tuesday. So those tactics, and also just on Election Day, we're putting a lot of muscle into what we call election protection. So if you're having a problem at the polls, whether it's someone is asking you for something you don't need, or they're saying you can't vote, or even if you can't find parking at your polling place, if you call 1-866-OUR-VOTE that day, we'll be there to help you and figure out how to get you to vote.
Okay, that's a national level, right? It's not just California.
Right. So everywhere in the country, we'll be staffing those call centers and also sending mobile field volunteers and lawyers out to the polls where they're needed.
Could you give that number again, Anjuli?
Yeah, it's 1-866-OUR-VOTE, OURVOTE. And also there's a Spanish language version, 1-866-VEYVOTA. So.
Okay, that's important because I know there's a lot of that going. There are groups, extremist groups, that are going to make it difficult for people to vote in other states. I've been reading on that as well. We're running down time, and I want to thank you for coming on to talk about what's going on in the Youth Summit, and it sounds really great moving forward, the 2 laws that have been passed. But as far as toward the election, what are your, just real quickly, if anybody has any questions, what site, or if they like to volunteer at this coming election, where can they go here in California? What's the website or a phone number if you'd like to give?
Yeah, well, if they're really interested in the election protection work, so protecting the vote on election day, staffing a call center, they can go to commoncause.org/VOL, like volunteer, polls, vol, polls, like the polls, and we can plug them in there.
Okay, Anjuli, thank you so much for coming on the show. She is
thanks for having me.
Yeah, this Los Angeles organizer. Hope to have you on again for post 2012. I'm sure this is going to be an ongoing thing. You do great work. For everyone out there, it is so important to vote. If you have any questions, please go to the site and make sure you get out and vote. It is so important. When we come back, we're going to have our second guest, Dr. L.E.D. Beltram. She is a psychoanalyst and a New Age scientist. So stay tuned and hang in there.
You're listening to Don't Get Left in the Dust, right here on LA Talk Radio.